Do you want them to kneel without you ever asking? To dream of you, fear you, and need you, even while you are destroying them? There are techniques that do not seduce. They possess. They do not conquer. They infect. This is not a video to be liked, nor to improve relationships. This is a manual of psychological warfare. Here you will learn how to break wills, infiltrate minds, and make someone emotionally yours without leaving traces. These are 10 extreme manipulation techniques. If you were ever used, ignored, or replaced by someone inferior, this video is your revenge, with a scalpel, because when you control their mind, you no longer need their body, you own it by right. Let's begin, and we will show no mercy. Technique 1. Shatter their reality. Become their refuge. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how someone can slowly disconnect you from yourself? Not suddenly, not violently, quietly. You stop trusting your own judgment. You hesitate before thinking. You check their reaction before believing your own feelings. That wasn't love. That was conditioning. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of that, stay with me. Because today, you're not learning how it feels. You're learning how it's done. This technique isn't emotional. It's mechanical. It works like mental chemistry. First, you destabilize. Then, you stabilize. And the bond that forms here is stronger than pleasure, stronger than reassurance, stronger than words. We're not here to be liked. We're here to enter their internal system and quietly rewrite it. Here's how it begins. You don't attack their reality. You question it, softly, casually, almost kindly. You ask, are you sure you remember it that way? Or sometimes it feels like what you say doesn't fully match what you do. You're not accusing. You're introducing friction, small inconsistencies, micro doubts, nothing they can argue with. But once those doubts appear, their certainty weakens. And when certainty weakens, the mind looks for stability. That's when you step in, not loudly, not forcefully, calm, grounded, certain. Their emotional compass shifts, and you become the reference point. Not because you demanded it, because everything else started to feel unreliable. That's the moment, not before. This is where the second phase begins. You become the refuge. You listen, you validate, you explain, not as an equal, as an interpreter. If they're upset, you clarify why. If they're confused, you define what it means. If they doubt you, you reframe it as fear. Gradually, their inner dialogue stops sounding like them and starts sounding like you. No arguments, no control, just guidance. Because the moment someone needs another person to understand what they feel, autonomy ends, dependency begins. They don't notice it, that's why it works. At this point, you're no longer influencing behavior. You're replacing their internal manual and handing them a new one, written in your language. But this is only the surface, because once their balance is gone, you can take them right to the edge. Not by pushing, by letting them feel how unstable everything is without you. And right when fear sets in, when the ground disappears, you're there, not as a savior, as the only solid thing left. They don't hold on to you because they love you. They hold on to you because you prevent the fall. Yes, it's cruel, but you didn't come here to be gentle. You came here to understand control. And from here, we go deeper, because the next step is not confusion, it's addiction. Measured cycles, chaos, relief, presence, absence, so subtle it feels natural, so effective they'll keep reaching for you even while breaking. Stay with me, we're not stopping here. Next, drip of chaos and affection. And once it begins, there is no exit. Technique 2. Drip of chaos and affection. Do you want her to think about you even while she sleeps? Do you want every free thought to quietly return to you? Then don't give her peace. Give her cycles, closeness, distance, warmth, withdrawal, heaven, then hell. Repeat it carefully, as if accidental, because the human brain doesn't bond to happiness. It bonds to confusion, followed by relief. That pattern is attachment. This is the drip of chaos and affection. It's easy to understand and devastating to experience. Here's how it looks. Today, you are gentle, present, attentive. You make her feel chosen, seen, as if nothing else exists. Her system relaxes, and then, without warning, you pull back. Silence, cold distance, emotional absence, not anger, not explanation, just withdrawal. As if she no longer matters. The result isn't pain, it's searching. Her mind starts replaying everything, looking for mistakes, patterns, reasons, and when the brain searches for answers and finds none, it loops again and again, like an emotional roulette that never stops spinning. Here's the rule. Never be consistent. Be unpredictable. With structure. You don't withdraw randomly. You withdraw after closeness. You don't give affection when she asks. You give it when she's about to give up. That timing matters, because slowly, her emotional system stops trusting itself and starts reacting to you, not consciously, conditionally. The disturbing part? She won't resent you. She'll romanticize it. She'll believe she just needs to try harder. that she failed, that she didn't earn you yet. So she increases the effort, more attention, more access, more submission. And this is where control becomes automatic. Because when you control the rhythm, you control the chemistry. You decide when there's comfort, when there's stress, when there's relief. At that point, you're no longer a person in her life. You're a regulator, a drug, a punishment, a solution. Her world starts orbiting you, but it feels like her choice. That's the illusion. This technique doesn't feel abusive. It feels intense, deep, passionate. Even if she confronts you, you don't defend yourself. You reframe. You're exaggerating. You're too sensitive. And just like that, doubt returns. She re-enters the cycle, not forced, pulled, like a fly returning to the jar that already trapped it once. Now you see why this is one of the most addictive techniques. But listen, what comes next goes deeper, because we're done working only with emotions. Next, we embed ourselves in the body. In Technique 3, you'll learn how desire becomes imprint, how pleasure becomes memory, how the nervous system learns before the mind does. This isn't seduction, it's neurological recording. Stay with me, you've already gone too far to stop now. Next, the reptilian orgasmic bond. And once the body learns you, the mind will follow. Technique 3. Reptilian orgasmic bond. The body remembers things the mind never understands. One intense experience can leave a deeper mark than years of conversation. That's why this technique doesn't rely on arguments. No promises, no explanations. It only requires one sequence. You enter, you mark, you leave. And when I say enter, I'm not talking about the physical. I'm talking about her nervous system, her reflexes, her primal layer. You're engraving yourself into the part of her that existed before language. That is what the reptilian orgasmic bond is. Turning pleasure into an anchor. A stimulus so intense, so unexpected, so overwhelming, that the brain records it as something both pleasurable and destabilizing. A dopamine spike high enough that her system links it to you, exclusively. The result is simple. She doesn't look for it elsewhere. Nothing else compares. No one else fits. No one else feels right. And this isn't about skill. It's not about satisfaction. It's about imprinting. When you bring her to the edge of losing control, when intensity alternates with softness, when her body reacts before her thoughts can, you leave a signature in her emotional spine. After that, arousal no longer belongs to her. Her body looks for you, even if she resists, even if she decides to leave. Her mind may try to protect her, her body won't. That's how you build a prison without bars, from sensation. And here's what makes it stronger. You disappear. Immediately. No staying, no comfort, no explanation. You let her remain inside the contrast. Pleasure followed by absence. Enjoyment followed by silence. The confusion deepens. Because now it's not just desire. It's guilt. Wanting something she believes she shouldn't want. Dependence wrapped inside shame. That combination locks in place. This isn't intimacy, it's biological control. Not through force, through precision, not through dominance, through programming. And if this already feels powerful, understand this. We haven't touched the most effective lever yet. Because next, we move away from the body and into meaning. In Technique 4, we use the purest mechanism of all. Approval, validation, recognition. We turn it into a substance. Something she needs to feel human. Something she will beg for. Next, approval as heroin. And once you become the dose, you don't need to chase. They come to you. We continue. And once you become the dose, you don't need to chase. They come to you. We continue. Technique 4. Approval as heroin. Do you want her to look for you, even when she promised herself she wouldn't? To reach out without knowing why? To lower herself for a signal? Then don't offer affection. Offer relief. Become the small gesture that quiets the emptiness, the glance, the sentence, the moment. Because when your approval is worth more than her dignity, this is no longer a relationship, it's dependency. This technique isn't about praise. Anyone can flatter. This is about timing. You give her warmth right after withdrawal, paradise immediately following hell. You've already seen this pattern, the drip. Here, it intensifies. Every time she tries to please you, to earn you, to adjust herself emotionally, you acknowledge her, briefly, precisely. There you are. That's how I like you. And then, you remove yourself. What you triggered wasn't comfort, it was dopamine, not through touch, through meaning. You turned your validation into a chemical reward, and the mechanism is invisible. She believes you're just being honest, that you're recognizing her effort, but her system has already learned. Approval now equals worth. So when insecurity appears, she doesn't look inward. She looks for you, and you decide whether she settles or collapses. Once that happens, reversal isn't possible. You can deepen it, make approval conditional. Be warm, selectively. Withhold attention until it's noticed. Then release it, sparingly. Each time it lands, it feels earned, like passing an unseen test. That's how attention becomes currency. Your presence, a reward. Your gaze, fuel. You're no longer her partner. You're the authority that measures her value. Now combine this with what came before, intensity in the body, followed by judgment. She doesn't just feel you, she needs confirmation that she did it right. She waits for it. And when it doesn't come, withdrawal sets in. Restlessness, self-doubt, craving, not for you, for approval. Do you see the structure forming? It doesn't look like control, it feels like connection. And that's why it holds. But we're not finished. Because desire and self-esteem are only surface layers. Next, we go deeper. To the fracture, the wound, the place where identity breaks. That's where the next technique begins. Technique 5. Break her emotionally. Become the glue. This technique doesn't aim for love, it aims for need, for dependence, for pain, with you positioned as the only relief. It's dark, it's invasive, and it works. Once you control her need for approval, you gain access to her pain, and pain is leverage. What comes next is simple in structure and devastating in effect. You break her, then you repair her. There is a bond stronger than love, deeper than sex, more addictive than admiration. It's the bond between the one who causes the wound and the one who later offers salvation. This technique isn't for the hesitant. It's for those willing to let her fall, as long as you are the one who pulls her back. Here's how it begins. You create an emotional rupture, not with anger, not with volume, with silence, with distance, with a sentence delivered calmly, precisely at the right moment. I don't know if you're what I'm looking for. You say it after closeness, after trust, after she felt safe. That contrast does the damage. It doesn't hurt loudly, it fractures quietly, and when you see the signs, confusion, collapse, desperation, that's when you return. Not apologetic, not explanatory, you don't justify, you hold her, you look at her, and you say, "It's okay, it's over now." In that context, those words aren't comfort, they're instruction. You're teaching her something critical. You are the source of pain, and the source of relief, at the same time. From that moment on, you're no longer just a person, you're regulation. Her nervous system begins to orient around you. Want to see it more clearly? After an intense moment of connection, you withdraw. You question her value, you let doubt surface, you let her cry. And just when she's about to shut down, you return. Tender, present, not for pleasure, for imprinting. So she never knows whether you are the one who breaks her or the one who saves her. That uncertainty is the cage. She calms only when you do. This is why many mistake it for passion. They call it intensity, depth, complexity. They don't see that the fragmentation has already happened. And if until now you've worked with emotion, desire, and pain, what comes next moves inside her thoughts. No pressure, no debate, no resistance, just ideas that feel like her own. Because the next technique doesn't control behavior. It controls the internal voice. And once you have that, there's nothing left to fight. Get ready for technique 6. Plant ideas as if they were hers. The next step is that she thinks what you need her to think without ever knowing it. Like the video if you ever felt someone broke you and then comforted you as if they were your only cure. Comment if you've already played with this power without fully understanding it. Because if you've made it this far, you're no longer learning how to manipulate, you're learning how to possess. We continue, and from here on, there is no turning back. Technique 6. Plant ideas as if they were hers. Do you know what real control is? Not obedience, Control is when the idea feels like it came from her, when she changes and swears it was her choice, when she wants you and believes it was freedom. That isn't influence, that's mental engineering. And this is where it begins. This technique isn't about persuasion, it's about infiltration. You don't convince her, you let the thought form inside her on its own, disguised as intuition. You don't use statements, you use questions. You don't say, "You're being unfair." You ask, "Don't you think that sometimes you let fear speak for you?" It sounds caring, reasonable, safe, but it plants something. A thought she'll repeat when you're not there. And repetition does the work. A thought becomes belief. Belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes identity. Another way is indirect. Stories. You talk about someone else, a friend who lost someone valuable because of pride, a man who walked away because he felt he was never enough. You're not talking about her. That's why it enters clean. Her subconscious accepts it without resistance. No defense activates, no alarm sounds. The idea reaches the core untouched. That's the elegance of this technique. It bypasses logic, and once it's inside, you reinforce it, lightly, almost casually. I've always admired people who can admit their mistakes without fear. You say it after tension. I like it when someone knows what they want and doesn't play games. You say it right before doubt. Each sentence is a seed. Seeds don't need pressure. They need time. When they grow, she won't see you. She'll believe she arrived there alone, that she matured, that she chose differently. But the internal map has already changed. This isn't manipulation, it's perception design. You're rewriting her operating system while she believes she's evolving. Think about it. How many times did you believe you changed by choice, when you were really following a thought someone else planted? And if this already feels dangerous, understand what comes next. Because the next step doesn't control thought, it controls fear. In Technique 7, we stop working with ideas. We work with shadows, guilt, impulse, the parts she hides. We'll reflect her darkness back to her until she needs your approval just to feel human. If you can plant ideas, you can plant ghosts. Get ready. The shadow is about to speak, and you will be the translator. Technique 7. Project. Her darkness. Onto her, everyone hides parts of themselves. Impulse, envy, desire, memories that feel dangerous to touch. Now consider this. What happens when someone reflects those parts back, not directly, not aggressively, but calmly? What happens when escape becomes impossible because someone shows you who you are, not to heal you, but to bind you? That's what this technique does. And it's one of the most refined tools of deep mental control. Projecting her darkness isn't about insult. It isn't exposure. It's about recognition, followed by conditional acceptance. You begin by noticing her blind spot, the need to control, the fear of abandonment, the quiet competition, the manipulation she doesn't admit to herself. You don't criticize it. You name it. Softly, precisely. Sometimes it feels like you need everything under control so you don't feel unsafe. Then you soften it. I'm not judging. We all have parts we wish we could hide. She stops, because you didn't attack her. You understood her. You spoke to her shadow as if you were the only one who could see it without rejecting her. That's where attachment forms, not from love, from relief. Now she stays close, not because she wants you, but because you make her feel less dangerous to herself. You become the place where she can remain dark without feeling dirty. And this is where control deepens, because that shadow can now be used. When you want to set limits, you don't argue, you remind, subtly. You don't have to sabotage everything like you usually do. Or, you know how far you can go when you let yourself slip. You don't stop her, her shadow does. She pulls back on her own. Not because you forced it, but because you activated the part of her she's afraid of becoming. She locks herself in. Do you see the level? There's no conflict, no struggle. You're simply reflecting what already exists and conditioning your presence on that reflection. If she wants to keep feeling understood, she has to stay close. Not because you're holding her, but because without you, she feels monstrous. And no one wants to face their own reflection alone. And if this already feels heavy, understand what comes next. Because now we bring the past into it. the oldest wounds, the memories that never healed. Not to repair them, but to turn them into leverage. In Technique 8, we dig into what still bleeds. We touch it carefully, and we hold the thread like a chain. Get ready for Technique 8. Use her past against her, and at that point, she won't want to escape. She'll only want you to protect her from herself. Like the video if someone ever showed you a part of yourself you didn't even want to see. Comment if you already know which shadow you can use, or if someone ever did this to you. Because if you already control how she sees herself, now you'll control what she never wants to feel again. We continue. The past heals us if someone knows how to use it. Technique 8. Use her past against her. Some wounds never close. They're hidden, covered, denied, but they keep beating. And if you know how to touch them, without rushing, without force, without looking cruel, they stop being pain. They become control. Because a wound that never healed doesn't just hurt, it obeys. This technique isn't for seducing a mind. It's for ruling it from its most vulnerable point. You begin by listening, not interrupting, not fixing, not advising. You let her talk. Everyone reveals their fracture eventually. Abandonment, humiliation, replacement. The details don't matter. What matters is the meaning she attached to it. Once you know it, you don't use it. You store it, carefully, like a scalpel wrapped in velvet. And then, only when the moment arrives, when she doubts you, questions you, or thinks about leaving, you don't confront her. You speak to the wound. I understand. It's like when they left you and you felt you weren't enough. You don't say it harshly, you say it with a tenderness so cold it disarms her. That's where the break happens, because no one touches that place. No one names it that precisely. No one dares to press exactly where it burns, except you. The effect is immediate. She feels seen at a level that scares her. She can't hide, and at the same time, she needs you there, because you touch the pain, but you also stayed. That ambiguity between harm and protection creates a cage without bars. It only needs memory. You can deepen it. You use the wound to justify structure. If she was betrayed, you say, I know trust is hard, but if you don't follow this, you'll sabotage everything again. She doesn't resist. She doesn't argue. She associates it with fear, with history, and she yields. Not because you demanded it, but because her past told her what happens if she doesn't. This is where dependency forms. You're no longer just present. You're embedded inside her scars. She can't tell her story without you appearing in it. You're part of the narrative now. And narratives don't cut clean. Now consider this. If her wound already belongs to you, what happens when you change what it's called? That's the next step. Because the next technique doesn't work with memory. It works with identity, with the words she uses to describe herself. In Technique 9, you don't touch the wound. You rename the person, and whoever controls the name controls the behavior. Get ready for Technique 9. Change her internal name, because whoever controls the concept controls the character. Like the video if someone ever used your past to make you doubt yourself. Comment if you've already identified which wound you'll use, or if someone has already used yours. Because if you now dominate her yesterday, you're about to rewrite who she is, and after that, there is no return. Let's go. It's time for her to be called what you decide. Technique 9. Change her internal name. We all have a name no one else knows, a concept that defines how we treat ourselves. I'm strong. I'm hard to love. I'm complicated. I'm a problem. These aren't external phrases, they are internal identities. And whoever manages to change that label changes the entire script. This technique is one of the most subtle and also one of the most devastating, because it doesn't try to control her from the outside. It seeks to modify how she sees herself on the inside. You're not giving her a silly nickname. You're giving her an emotional designation, a label that sticks to her soul. It can be sweet. You're my perfect chaos. Or it can be dangerous. You always run when people start to love you. Have you noticed? In both cases, you're doing the same thing. You're marking her behavior with a phrase that will echo in her head every time she acts. You're programming an internal narrative that repeats even when you're not there. And here's the most powerful part. If you repeat that name enough times, With tenderness, with firmness, during moments of vulnerability, she starts to act according to that character. If you tell her you're addictive, she'll begin to feel that way. If you tell her you're fire, but you burn out when someone loves you, you sabotage her ability to sustain healthy bonds. But she won't see it as manipulation. She'll see it as a description that fits. And over time, it becomes real, and it doesn't stop there. Now you can use that internal name to redirect behavior. When she behaves the way you want, you say, "There you are, the version that drives me crazy." If she drifts, you simply mention, "You're going to be the one who runs again." No yelling, no accusations, just reminding her of the character you assigned her. And because we all crave internal coherence, she'll return to that mold, not out of fear, out of identity. This is where you're no longer guiding emotions. You're rewriting her script. You're taking control of the "I am" she repeats every day. And when someone adopts your phrase as part of their essence, they're no longer free. She can go out with whoever she wants, talk to whoever she wants, sleep wherever she wants, but you'll be inside her narrative, as a voice implanted in her conscience. And now that you control how she names herself, the next step is to disappear. Yes, disappear right when she desires you most. Because in Technique 10, you'll learn the most cruel and magnetic art of control: timed abandonment, absence as a scalpel, loss as a hook. Like the video if someone ever changed you with a single phrase. Comment if you already know which label you could plant, or which one was planted in you, because if you've already defined her from the inside, now you're going to teach her the price of not having you. Come on, get ready to make her tremble with your silence, because abandonment is not suicide, if you know when to do it. Technique 10. Timed abandonment. There are goodbyes that hurt, and there are disappearances that mark forever. Not because of what is said, but because of what is taken away. Not through violence, but through precision. This technique is not an exit, it's a silent bomb. It's not about ending your presence, it's about leaving exactly when she needs you most, and turning that absence into an emotional tattoo, one that neither time, nor another person, nor logic can erase. Timed abandonment is executed with cruel elegance. You don't warn her, you don't dramatize, you activate it right after intensity, a confession, a night of fire, an emotional surrender. Just when her heart is open and her mind has lowered its guard, that's when you disappear. Not to punish her. So that silence speaks louder than you ever could. So that every heartbeat afterward interrogates her. What happened? What did I do? Why did he leave? She will come back. And the most brutal part, you leave no reason. Because abandonment without closure isn't processed. It's chewed over, carried. It becomes a wound that doesn't bleed, but never heals. She will look for you in her mind, in her body, in every song, in every person she tries to replace you with. And she won't succeed because you didn't leave. You embedded yourself before you went. That's what few understand. It's not about how long you stay. It's about where you settle before you disappear. Want to leave an eternal mark? Don't return when she begs. Return when she no longer expects you, with a calm so cold, so natural, it feels like nothing ever happened. Don't give explanations, give mystery, give relief. And then repeat, not constantly, not impulsively, only when you sense she has rebuilt herself enough to be broken again. That's the logic of this technique. It doesn't damage, it shapes, it doesn't destroy, it redesigns. Now look at me. If you apply everything you've learned so far, if you shatter reality, dose chaos, plant ideas, and dominate desire, you're no longer a player in the emotional game, you're the architect. And with this final move, the perfect abandonment, the final signature on a masterpiece of psychological control, there's only one thing left to do: close the door and leave it open from the inside. Like the video if someone ever disappeared and left you shaking. Comment if you already know who you would apply this to, or if it was done to you without you realizing it. And listen carefully. When you leave at the exact moment, they don't miss you. They need you, not out of love, but out of emotional withdrawal. We'll see each other in the next ritual, but if I disappear, now you know why.